No wonder we're having so many issues with you. You keep... It keeps wanting to look at VLC when I keep telling it, no, stop that, look at the website. Alright, now it's looking at the proper place. So let me put it there. And now... Ooh. Okay, yeah, now I can go over to here, and now we can start. So, 10, 9, 8... Alright.
Welcome, French citizens, revolutionaries, and everyone waiting to be judged by Madame Guillotine, to this, the 318th episode of an Unearthly Podcast, streaming live on the 21st of August, 2019, and featuring The Reign of Terror, written by Dennis Spooner and starring William Hartnell as the Doctor, Carol Ann Ford as Susan, Jacqueline Hill as Barbara, and William Russell as Ian. I'm your host for this evening, Randy Ronson McCulloch, and with me on the panel tonight is our technical director, Mad Matt Winchell.
Coca-Cola Zero Orange Vanilla is actually better than regular.
And Tim the Enchanter Sheridan.
Bonjour.
Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black, is working tonight and can't be with us. Also may not have internet.
That's a
And
maybe.
of course, Thomas Fireheart is too chicken to do telesnaps.
One of us. Google gobble, Google gobble.
So how's your week been, guys?
It's been okay. Not too bad. It was raining a bit today, but then it stopped, as it does sometimes.
The rain
Sometimes
in
it
Spain
rains,
falls
sometimes it
mainly
doesn't.
on the plain.
So
Yeah.
after 3 months of back and forth between me over my insurance company and yada, 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 they finally approved and gotten me a CPAP machine. If you know what a CPAP machine is.
That's for sleep apnea?
Yes.
My father is currently going under testing for that, started this morning.
Yeah, I had a test a couple years ago, and they said, yeah, I needed it. But at the time, the machine they wanted to put me on was about the size of a canister vacuum cleaner and sounded like one.
Oh, joy. You can really
Yeah.
sleep well with that going.
Yeah, exactly. So, 3 months ago, if you recall, I was hospitalized. While I was in there, they put oxygen, in a little thing, in the little, 2 little nostril things they put on you. And I noticed I did sleep better with a liter of oxygen going into me. I'm like, okay, that's a little bit of proof. And then a couple weeks later, my doctor laid it down to me and said, yeah, getting a CPAP machine might be the difference between you living 5 years or living indefinitely. I'm like, okay, all right, I'll give. And of course, I've been dreading it because I didn't want the freaking, vacuum cleaner of doom sound. So imagine my surprise when they come in and they introduce me to my CPAP machine, which is the size of a clock radio.
Okay.
And almost completely silent.
The miracles of 10 years of technology, am I right?
Yeah. The only sound it makes is the air rushing out of the hose. And when that's attached to my face, you don't hear
very
that.
minimal, yeah.
Now, the other problem I had with this is, of course, the options they gave me when I did the test was to basically, there were 2 different kinds of masks, and one would require me to shave because they couldn't put me in a full mask with my beard. And, shaving's not out of the picture, but,
It's a pain in the neck, and it's kind of destroys the look.
honestly, I've been considering shaving anyway recently. Because a couple of weeks ago, I showed up on my Monday game and freaked out Danny, the girlfriend of a friend of ours, when that day I decided not to wear a hair tie because I couldn't find any.
Okay.
And she sat down and she's like, "Oh my God." And I'm like, "What? You look like Weird Al." Now, mind you, the irony of this is I spent most of the 90s trying to look like Weird Al and failing.
Yeah, I believe we've already kind of covered once or twice that you kind of look like the heavyweight Weird Al when
Yeah,
your
the
hair
Weird
tied
Al
back.
from the fat video.
You've always
So
wanted weird look like Weird Al, but not quite like this.
the thing is, I'm honest to God thinking of shaving my beard, keeping the mustache, and wearing a tropical shirt into game, and just
And see what
watch
the
her
reaction
freak
is.
the hell out. Yes, because otherwise my look is pretty good. I wear black jeans with Converse sneakers. My hair is kind of curly and loose, so I kind of look like Al did in the 80s and 90s.
He still looks a
And
bit like that whenever he lets the hair go for a bit.
Plus, I got the glasses and the stash, both of which he doesn't have anymore. But yeah, in the day he did.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I can pull off the Weird Al look.
Awesome.
So now I'm going to try it and just see if I can freak her out. Why? Because I'm evil. But anyway.
While you're singing White and Nerdy.
So yeah, so now they have these things for CPAP machines called. Actually, no, I'd be singing fat. Now they have these things called nasal pillows for CPAP machines, and all it is the cord comes down, and there's these big puffy things that go just below your nostrils and hook in, and that's a better fit for me because sleeping in a mask for me wasn't going to happen. I would lie awake all night thinking I was choking to death. But yeah, now I've got these things. And I slept in it last night for the first time. I got the thing on Monday, tried to put it on Monday night, discovered I needed to make some adjustments. Made those on Tuesday, went to bed Tuesday night, and I slept like a freaking rock. I mean, one of those things where you're, absolutely dead to the world.
Mm-hmm.
And then you wake up and realize that, your alarm was supposed to go off half an hour ago.
Oh yeah, I had a few of those.
Yeah. Then I was supposed to go to cardiotherapy and discovered I'd made a wasted trip because the machine that they use for me, the treadmill that's rated for my weight, is currently broken down.
Oh joy.
Yeah. So they're going to push my starting date back until after that's fixed.
Alrighty. Like I said, I just found out today that my dad's doing testing for that. He's a bit panicked, but then I'm like, well, the reason you need to do this is to make sure you're not gonna die of it.
Yep. Here's the thing you can warn your father about. The sleep test is the most uncomfortable thing in the world.
Well, he's gone through night one and rather day one, so he probably is aware of that.
Okay.
Yeah, he had to have like this harness, a thing around his finger, and I forget a few other things all attached around. It's just like, well, add a few more tubes and we got a horror costume.
Yeah, it's pretty invasive. And that's the problem. Is how are you supposed to sleep when you're hooked up to the point that any minor movement causes you to lose one of these sensors and they have to come in and reset everything? It's like, seriously, guys. I don't know about you, but I tend to roll around when I sleep, or at least I used to.
I definitely used to at least a lot more when I used back in the day, but I think I still do quite a bit of wiggling.
And all that will cause these sensors to go loose because they're freaking stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sitting there taking this test, and I'm thinking to myself, why do they need all these freaking wires and cables? We live in a day of wireless technology being just as good as cables. Why can't they have these things hooked up on different Wi-Fi frequencies to a receiver and deal with it like that?
Huh.
Be more costly though.
It would be slightly, not that much more. Wireless technology is freaking cheap these days.
Mm. Mm.
But you'd think they could just have these little, sensor patches with just a tiny little transmitter on them and could transmit to the receiver dock and bingo, done. Heck, if I was a little more technically apt, I would design these sons of bitches.
Oh, I also would add that my father's first day of sleeping with that thing on didn't go too well because apparently he slept with his phone still next to him.
I always sleep with my phone next to me.
Yeah, but he
that,
usually is smart enough to leave it downstairs because the thing goes off every 10 minutes.
well, that's why I have it. I have it muted, except for my alarm.
I think like 2 or 3 hours into his rest today, he suddenly had to get up and go to the bathroom and turn off his phone.
Yeah, well, my phone is also my alarm clock, so that's why I keep mine on.
He's got like 2 radio alarms in his room. He doesn't need it.
Well, actually, I'd probably sleep through those now. These days, the only thing that seems to wake me up is the song "Awaken" by Death Clock.
Oh, I don't know. He has these things cranked to 11, and half the time they're mostly static anyways, so it's a bunch of loud noise intermixed with a little bit of music.
The alarm clock from The Tick might wake me up too. I'm not sure.
Does your alarm clock from The Tick play the Danger Boat theme?
No, it's not. It's not the Tick from that. It's the original opening to the old '90s cartoon.
Oh.
It starts with this alarm clock going off, and basically they get up out of bed and go running right into danger. Yeah. Yeah, that one.
Nice.
So yeah, that's been my week.
I believe I mentioned I was possibly getting Crystallis last week. I think like a day or two afterwards, I got it in the mail extra early.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, tested it out, working perfectly fine. Came exactly as pictured, so I'm pretty happy with that. The labels are fine. It actually came with like a clamshell box.
Mm-hmm.
That uses the original box for the like an insert or something.
Mm-hmm.
So all in good shape. It's got a nice protective box that it's in of itself is protected. So thumbs up. I get around to the reviewing. Get around to that review. They're getting a pretty positive out of me. About the only thing I could have thought of that would have been missing is the booklet, but I knew the booklet was already missing, so I'm not going to downgrade them for that.
Okay. Is there anything else anybody did this week?
I'm trying to think of anything else in particular. Nothing I can think of at the moment.
All right, let's get started then. On tonight's show, we have news and birthdays, and there's actually quite a few birthdays all landing on one day.
Yeah, it seems to be that day. It's that day every year, it seems.
Yeah, it's kind of the big one.
Yeah, there's a bit of hogpiling.
Yeah, it's like why we don't have birthdays other times, because they're all on this day this month. I don't think any of us have any geek talk.
I could talk about video game stuff, but it's not necessary.
All right. No review of shame. So after that, we'll get episode summary, review, final thoughts, and ratings.
Yep.
Might be a short one tonight then.
Yeah.
Let's get on with birthdays. First of all, 16th of August is the birthday of Rachel Talalay. Or Talale. The director from 2014 to 2017 directed some of the best episodes of the Capaldi era. Turned 61. The 18th of August saw the birthday of John Debney, composer from the 1996 TV movie. He turned 63. Still one of the, well, I don't know. I think Murray Gold did it better, but really he's the one that really turned us towards the whole concept of the orchestral Doctor Who theme.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 20th of August is our big birthday day, starting with James Marsters, who played Captain John Hart in Torchwood, also known as Spike from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Brainiac from Smallville, or Piccolo from that Dragon Ball Z movie we don't talk about.
But we talked about it.
He turned 57. On the same day is the birthday of Sophie Aldred, who played Ace from 87 to 89. She turned 57. Sylvester McCoy, the Doctor from 87 to 89, turned 76. And then finally, Anthony Ainley, the Master from 82 to 89, would have been 87 but died in 2004 at 71. So let's give a happy birthday to Rachel, John, James, Sophie, Sylvester, and Tony. Oh, it's a lot of people on one day to all have the same birthday in the same production house. And most of them were operating at the same time. That must have been a big freaking birthday day.
Yeah, at least a couple of them were, yeah.
Yeah, imagine if that happened to fall while they were making Survival. Jesus. Anyway, from there we go to episode news, and we have a little bit of news.
Teeny little bit. Yes. Filming of what is thought to be the fifth and final filming block for Series 12 was spotted at Nash Point in Wales yesterday. Tents were spotted erected in the area and actors were seen in costume. It is thought these are for episodes 9 and 10. This means that Series 12 is almost in post-production, save for any reshoots. Exciting news.
Yeah, that means that once this block is over, and this is usually about 2-week block, that means that the series would be sent to post if the earlier episodes haven't already been on post, and we're still on time for it to start next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that gives them a couple of months to do any visual effects and hopefully get them right. Cross your fingers.
And of course, we don't know if they're starting New Year's Day or what's going to happen there.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. We'll probably know if they're going to do New Year's by around, say, between like the Thanksgiving and Christmas, I would assume. If not sooner.
Mm-hmm. It'd probably be sometime in December they'd announce it.
At the very latest, yeah.
All right, moving on. We've got a little bit of alumni cast and crew news.
Yes, that's my particular one. Copy link. Oh, come on. Now you're fighting with me. There we go. All right, so former Dr. Peter Capaldi is set to star in a television adaptation of the story Martin's Close by M.R. James. This is about a 1684 trial of John Martin, a man accused of murdering a young girl named Anne Clark, who appears in the story as an apparition. Capaldi will be playing the Ambassador Doberman.
Barrister, basically.
Barrister. Yeah, it's like a judge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Not much is known. I was trying to figure out if this is based on a true story or if it's a complete work of fiction.
Sounds like it's a work of fiction, but it's oddly specific on the time frame.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm wondering, if it's based on a true story that has been embellished. But I can't find... there's not enough data.
Yeah, there's not enough data. It is possible that's kind of like an old, like a 16 or 1700s version of CIS or something. But yeah, it's nothing we can gain at the moment.
It might have been an old ghost story that M.R. James adapted into a modern novel. I don't know.
That's a possibility too.
Because, yeah, she's supposed to appear as a ghost that manages to get him convicted.
Interesting.
Yeah. I don't know, much about it myself because I've never read it, but That's going to be what Capaldi's up to. And that'll be on BBC 4 eventually, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And it is being done, I think, by the old, some of the old production team. Mark Gatiss.
Yeah, Marquez penned the. Yeah, Marquez did some of the rewriting for it for BBC.
Yeah. So we don't know, Gatiss, I think, is better outside the Doctor Who wheelhouse. So, yeah, it might be decent, might not be.
It might be just at his level, and it's a little more simple than trying to deal with a sci-fi time travel thing and whatever else the main story is about at the same time. I think that's usually his issue.
All right. And then finally, our last piece of news comes out of Big Finish. Well, our last piece of Doctor Who news. And that is that out today, Bern Gorman and Tom Price star in the latest Torchwood outing, The Hope. In it, Owen Harper and PC Andy Davidson investigate The Hope, an orphanage where all the children disappeared years ago. Only the former operator knows what happened, and now's the time to reveal her horrific secrets. They are touting this as one of the most emotional stories they've done for Torchwood. And it is available now, priced at $9.99 on CD, $7.99 download.
That's gonna be a hard niche to hit because there have been some real gut wrenchers in Torchwood in the original series.
Trying to beat Countryside is freaking hard.
Countryside, or what was the other one with the screaming? The guy who started screaming.
Oh God, that one. Yeah, I can't remember that one.
Yeah, we reviewed it. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head right now. But yeah, stuff like that. Oh my God. I think you're going to try and top that? Okay. We'll wait and see. Big Finish. We'll wait and see.
Anyway, that is all the Doctor Who news we have. Of course, the big news out this week is the fact that Sony and Disney have parted ways as far as Spider-Man is concerned.
I'm not sure if that's official yet, actually. But that is the big fear right now.
It is official in the fact that the rights have currently expired and there is no deal. Whether they can come to a deal in the near future may make a difference, but as of this point,
as of right now, the deal that Disney put down, Sony went, nah, get out of here with, and they've currently pulled license.
Yes. So we know that Sony has plans to make 2 more Spider-Man movies.
Mm-hmm.
In the current continuity.
Yep. And they also currently have plans to make a Venom follow-up. And there's been other things that they've been having in the mix, boiling around, waiting to see if it could actually come to fruition for years.
The Venom follow-up was never in the MCU continuity.
No, same with the original Venom, but after the 2 MCU-tied Spider-Man movies, they could technically take that Spider-Man and mix him in with Venom.
Yeah, and that's going to be the weird part because they're going to have to retcon some massive history.
They pretty much already are because Venom doesn't know the first thing about Spider-Man currently.
Not in Venom, because they can introduce the 2 to each other in whatever story they want to do. But no, I'm talking from the Spider-Man point of view. They will have to do some massive retconning.
Yeah, either way, that still goes either way because Venom's normal look is he has a giant white spider on his chest.
Mm-hmm.
That's already a sign that he already has had some contact with Spider-Man.
Yeah, but what I'm talking about is the fact that the current Spider-Man continuity
has no Venom in it either. Yeah.
Not just.
No,
enough
that's just
about
that.
Venom.
I think I just clued into what you're talking about, that they had to cut out the MCU stuff.
Yes. The current Spider-Man continuity is the fact that Spider-Man has a suit given to him by Tony Stark.
They had to cut that?
And his aunt is currently dating Happy Hogan.
Also have to cut that,
Yeah.
most likely.
And the fact that he's a person of interest by Nick Fury.
And Nick Fury is technically not something that Sony can keep either, so yep.
So yeah, so that's the major issue here is that they're this big and this has been a cash cow. The last the first Spider-Man movie was fairly decent, and the last one is fucking awesome. The one that you haven't gone to see yet, Matt.
Yes, the one that I keep getting delayed on.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why I'm not going to wait for my friend to go to see Rambo. I'm literally going to watch the 4 movies and go, hey, Dad, want to go see a new Rambo?
But
I'm
yeah,
sure I'll get there sooner.
and of course, this means that as the MCU goes forward with the next iteration of the Avengers, Spider-Man was apparently supposed to be a major player in it, and now he's not going to be.
Yeah, especially if Sony's going to keep behaving the way they are.
Because I can tell you this, a good chunk of this Far From Hope movie is the fact that it seems that Tony Stark has basically named Peter Parker as his successor.
Hmm.
So as of Far From Home, he is the Avengers. Because nobody else is around anymore.
At least at that particular moment, yeah.
So, that's also going to have to be aborted or changed because, yeah, they suddenly can't use Spider-Man. Now, if Sony and Marvel come to a deal, in the next few months, that's probably going to be okay. They can continue using Spider-Man back and forth, yada, yada.
Mm-hmm.
But the big issue is, whereas before they had a 50-50 profit split.
No.
What's that?
No. That's what Disney wanted. It was a 50-50 profit split. Disney only got 5%.
I thought it was the other way around.
No.
That Disney wanted to give Sony 5%.
No. I've been checking up on all the data on this. Literally, Disney only got 5% of the profits, but they also got all of the sales of merchandise for Spider-Man, though. So Sony kept most of the movie profits while Marvel made money on selling toys and posters and figures and merchandise like that. But now, all of a sudden, when the bargain came up, the first Disney bargain was 50-50 split on the movies now. Which, to be honest, I can understand that a little bit, but that's a wee bit greedy when you're already making a ton of money off of all the other stuff.
It depends. It could be that the profits from the merchandise wasn't coming back as much as they liked.
That's a maybe, but as far as I'm aware, they sell quite a bit.
I could see why Disney would want more.
I can definitely see why they would want more.
Because it was a Disney Marvel writer that was writing the stories.
Mm-hmm.
A director approved by Disney Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
And Disney Marvel was handling the production hype.
Yep. Sony was technically the one that pumped up the studio stuff for making it, and they still had Disney come in and film it more or less for them.
Mm-hmm. But, I could see them wanting 25, maybe 30%.
Yeah, I can see that. That's a little more reasonable. And also, I would add that apparently the other thing that got leaked out is that Feige was there to secretly help production for Venom and Spider-Verse.
But so I could see them wanting, a quarter or 30%. But yeah, 50 seems a bit strong because then what's in it for Sony?
Yeah, that's taking a huge punch at Sony, and Sony's not going to take well to that. Especially, also, I would add that at the same time that this is going on, Sony Entertainment, the video game side of things, just bought up the rights to the studio that made the Spider-Man game for PlayStation 4 this
Oh yeah,
last
that
year.
game apparently is awesome.
Yes, apparently it's the most amazing thing ever, and I'm sitting here going, "Who can port it to PC, please?"
I need to run out and get that for PlayStation next month when I have money.
Yeah, apparently it's the best game since like Spider-Man 2 or 3. And those were the for sure 2 was one of the big this is the best Spider-Man games ever kind of deals, which is why a lot of them afterwards try to emulate it.
All right. So,
But yeah, that's. But I would also add that a lot of the details that came out about this and whether or not they're already in bargains is kind of shady because I want to say it's an entertainment news place that starts with a V. I can't remember the name of it right now, but it's known through the Sony leaks that they are the people that they pony up cash to, and the writer that they got was a writer they personally handpicked out of that company to do Sony news for them.
mm,
So as to how truthful all the details are, they might have skewed things slightly, but that seems to be the general gist of things at the moment, at least. Oh yeah, and some people misread things, and apparently they thought Feige was going off of MCU stuff altogether, and it's like, no, they just said Sony's kicking them off of any more Spider-Man stuff.
yeah, and they're now claiming it's because Feige's increased workload following the Disney Fox merger.
No, that's not true either. It's just literally the fight between Disney and Sony has begun, and he's been removed from Spider-Man stuff again.
No, that is what Sony's claiming. I'm looking at an official press release statement from them.
That seems suspicious.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, almost dubious. But we'll see. Again, we'll have to wait and see. I'm not so sure about that.
Let's see. This is the exact wording of their press release. Much of today's news about Spider-Man has mischaracterized recent discussion about Kevin Feige's involvement in the franchise. We are disappointed but respect Disney's decision not to have him continue as a lead producer of our next live-action Spider-Man film. We hope this might change in the future, but understand that many new responsibilities that Disney has given him, including all their newly added Marvel properties, do not allow time for him to work on the IP they do not own. Kevin is terrific, and we are grateful for his help and guidance and appreciate the path he has helped put us on, which we will continue.
That sounds dubious as hell.
That was from Sony's official Twitter feed this morning.
That sounds more like if Marvel did tell him he's no longer allowed on the Spider-Man stuff, it's only because they are in the middle of the fights right now, and they're assuming other things. That sounds dubious as all get out. I don't think that's what's really going on, but again, we'll have to wait and see what Kevin Feige has to say about that. He might come back with something to say, but anyways, yeah, it's a hodgepodge right now. It's a hot mess.
It is, and it's unfortunate because this
could have been avoided if people would have come at it with cooler heads.
To be honest, the Spider-Man was the best part of the most recent MCU franchise.
Yeah, he had some of the best stuff going for him.
Yeah, I mean, Ant-Man is okay, but
Ant-Man's okay and fun, but he doesn't blow it out of the park.
Yep.
And it sounds like they have interesting stuff coming up for like Doctor Strange, and I can't wait for them to actually do a good Fantastic Four and X-Men in the MCU. But those are down the ways away. Yeah, we're probably like 2 or 3 years away from ever seeing any of them.
Mm-hmm. And of course, the Doc Strange is probably the second best thing they've got going at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Thor's already had 3 movies and is kind of winding down.
You say that, but I think he's still eager to do more Thor.
Oh yeah, he is eager to do so. Yes. Thor Ragnarok was great, but he's kind of the character has kind of been down to earth at this point, quite
For a
literally.
He needs to go back into space and work out a bit.
And of course we've lost Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
And we've lost Captain America.
Mm-hmm. And technically, the follow-up for that Captain America stuff is going to be a, I believe, Disney Online only thing.
Yeah, but both of those were main, anchor points to the MCU.
For a while here, yeah.
And both those actors have said, no, we're not coming back anymore, so.
Tim, I think your microphone's getting sensitive.
Okay,
because
I'm
you're
sorry.
being quiet. There you go.
But yeah. Aaron was looking at the MCU going, yeah, it's just not doing anything for me anymore. And she's not really thrilled by what she's seeing in the upcoming MCU stuff. But when she came out of Spider-Man, she was excited.
Yeah, now that they're axing Spider-Man possibly, that's just like, oh.
Well, it'll continue in their own movies.
Yeah, the thing is, look at the last couple of Spider-Man movies from Sony.
Yeah, that's the thing. Well, Into the Spider-Verse was pretty good.
Into the Spider-Verse is like the one out of the dozen so far.
Yeah, let's face it, Sony has a history of blowing franchises.
Mm-hmm.
They get this great idea, they get momentum, and then suddenly it turns into garbage. It's like it's been passed through the spirit of Uwe Boll.
When has that ever happened?
Spider-Man 3.
Spider-Man 3, Amazing Spider-Man 2. Yeah.
Speaking of Avengers stuff, though, apparently the hype train is going strong for the Avengers video game from Square Enix.
Mm.
One of the villains they've revealed so far is Taskmaster. And apparently, like his comic book counterpart, he has super speed.
Mm.
Or at least above average speed, which helps him in his abilities.
And of course, I think we talked last week about the CBS Viacom merger.
Yeah, we've mentioned that.
Yep. That is the thing. It's happening.
Mm-hmm. That's officially going through.
Suddenly the MCU's getting chopped up and then Star Trek's all under one roof. The hell?
Shrug. Cross-side.
There's still some problems on the CBS Viacom end tying up, especially with Bad Robot still in the picture. So
yeah, there's still some cleanup to do there, and that'll be a wait and see kind of thing.
Apparently, Star Trek needs its own version of Crisis on Infinite Earths now to bring everything back under one timeline.
Yeah, especially since technically we've got like 3 of them now.
Yep. That's a little disturbing.
Things were advanced enough when we had a mirror universe, thanks.
Yep. But that went back to the original series, so that was okay, but...
Yeah. And it's understandable because it's, everyone's got mustaches and goatees on the other side, okay.
Then we had J.J. Abrams retcon Star Trek, changed history, yada, yada, yada. And then it was all about that timeline for about 5-6 years. Well, actually, closer to 10. And then that crashed and burned. And then we've had Discovery, which has been limping along. And now people are all hedging their bets on Picard.
We can only pray on Picard there.
But you've noticed with the incoming Viacom CBS merge, have you seen the trailer for Picard?
I have.
And it's because early on in the Picard production, they said there would be none of Picard's old bridge crew will be guests. And we get to the trailer, and who the fuck do we see? Data.
One of them, possibly 2 different versions of Data, yeah.
Data, Riker. I think Troy might be in it.
Not sure.
And his bucket? And his bucket?
I don't know. We'll see.
I think Matt got it.
7 of 9 is in there, and that's
7 of 9
technically an
is-
aside thing, but still,
Yeah,
same timeline.
yeah. So suddenly they've gone whole hog into the prime timeline with this.
Or at least are
And-
attempting to, or some variant of it.
So that's a good sign. That is a right maneuver in my part.
Again, we can only sit here and pray that they're actually trying to make this course correction. And of course, I think they also, from what I hear behind the scenes, they had to stall for a while because apparently a lot of people trying to sell merch saw the changes and went, "Nah, this is too different again."
They did a screener, like 10 minutes of footage they had filmed, and the screener didn't go well.
Yeah, basically, a lot of people who are trying to sell merch went, "We can't sell this stuff. Make it more like the original, or we're not doing anything for you."
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, oof.
Yeah, and that's been a problem that they've had is the fact that
That's why there's practically no what's the current one again?
Discovery.
That's why there's next to no Discovery stuff out there.
Yeah,
Because
that's
they
the thing.
tried selling stuff and it's like it's not moving.
Discovery merch hasn't been selling. Abrams Trek merchandise hasn't been selling.
Mm-hmm.
You know what has been selling?
Old classic Trek.
Star Trek: The Next Generation, and Deep Space Nine merch.
Mm-hmm. Original Trek stuff has been moving like hotcakes still, and you can't get any of the new stuff to go anywhere.
Yep.
Also, I've been hearing Star Wars has been having the same problem lately.
Really?
Yeah, apparently old classic Star Wars stuff selling like hotcakes. Newest stuff,
Nobody wants to deal with the news.
It's like sitting on there like 50% discount, and you can't move these new characters because, to be honest, they've only had one movie and they weren't really well written sometimes.
Yep. You look at that, you go, no.
It's almost like Abrams doesn't quite know how to write his characters, but then again, I can't blame Abrams for the second movie.
No.
That was somebody else.
To be honest, I'm one of those people that liked the second movie better than I liked the first. Say what you will about it, at least it was original.
I can't even say it was original either.
As opposed to a pastiche of episodes 4 and 5, which is what the first movie was.
Well, this one was a pastiche of 5 and 6.
I don't know. They took that and inverted it a bit, though. So
They inverted, but that's still a pastiche. A pastiche is a pastiche.
Pastiche of Posh.
either way,
A pesh.
Of pesto. What?
Anyway, yeah, we are rambling hard.
Oh yeah, we are, because it's That's because we're trying to fill time tonight because we don't got a lot.
A wee bit,
Okay.
but we're
All right.
we're good. We're not too early right now.
Yeah. We're pretty much done with news and done with everything up to their normal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The only thing I would mention on gaming news lately. Oh gosh, what was the big thing now? There's just been like a lot of little controversies, and it's just like ugh, criminy.
All right. So, which one of you did Marco Polo as a summary last week?
Was that?
Twas
me?
I.
Oh no, that was Tim.
Okay.
That's right.
All
I was out because I was technically a review ahead of you guys, I believe.
All right. And you said you didn't manage to get all of the Daily Motion for this one, Matt, but you remember it?
I remember it vaguely, very vaguely, but I did see it about the same time I saw Marco Polo. I
should not account on you to do the episode summary, so it looks like it's going to be me.
Yep.
It's gonna be me.
I've done like a lookup of what I can find, but that's about it.
All right. Give me a little bit to mentally prep myself for that one.
That's right. I need to actually bring up the stopwatch.
We may be done early tonight.
Nothing wrong with that. We've had short episodes. Excuse me. All right, I'm ready.
All right. Okay, I'll go ahead and give it a shot. I
All
wasn't
right.
really watching it to do a review, so I'm
All right. Starting in 3, 2, 1, go.
okay. So the TARDIS lands in a nice wooded area, which the Doctor claims to be modern day England. Ian and Barbara don't quite agree with him because they've been led down that road before.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually convince the Doctor to go out with a walk for them. They eventually discover a boy who tells them, "No, it's not England, it's France." Quote, cue the looks at the Doctor, who's off by 100 kilometers, not that big of a deal. The boy runs off, and they kind of decide to explore around, and they find an old abandoned house, in which they go in, they find stuff, and realize that they're in the middle of the French Revolution, which, if any of you know your history, is not a nice place to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, especially that particular part of the French Revolution.
Yes, where the French were particularly happy about cutting people's heads off.
Amongst other things.
Yes. Anyway, they decide to explore around this house like they're members of Scooby-Doo. And instead of finding a ghost, they find two Frenchmen who jump the Doctor and hold the rest of them up at gunpoint. They're a little worried because they apparently are trying to escape from France. And unfortunately, they were followed by a whole platoon of French soldiers who one of them gets really nervous and eventually runs out of the house and is killed. The other one tries to make a political statement, but he too is quickly killed. That shows you how important they are. And the French search the house and find Ian, Barbara, and Susan, but not the Doctor, who's still upstairs unconscious. They arrest Ian, Barbara, and Susan and send them to Paris, which is only 12 kilometers away, while setting the house on fire. Well, fortunately for the Doctor, he tries to get out, can't, and is rescued at the last minute by basically French Ron Weasley, who tells him what happened. And the Doctor, of course, wanders off to go rescue his friends. Meanwhile, the others have been thrown into French prison. Ian, of course, is set into a separate cell where he discovers his other cellmate is an Englishman who's been shot. He tells him that he must find, what is the name of the guy? John Sterling, and deliver this message or all might be lost. And then promptly dies. Meanwhile, Barbara and Susan try to dig their way out of their cell and basically just unearth some rats, while Susan's behaving like a total prat and freaking out every 3 minutes. Somebody who removes the body from Ian's cell believes that he's been in communication with Ian, removes him from the execution list, and unfortunately that still leaves Barbara and Susan to go out and face the guillotine. Fortunately for them, there's a couple of French, I don't want to call them revolutionaries. Would you call them counter-revolutionaries? Anti-revolutionary? Side-revolutionary? I don't know.
Second or third parties.
Either way, they jump the prison convoy, kill the guards, and rescue Barbara and Susan. Eventually, the Doctor comes into town, disguises himself as a governor from a different province, and starts nosing around. Ian escapes. Eventually meets up with Barbara and Susan. Susan's come down with illness. They eventually have to take her to a doctor who runs off and basically reports them, and they're rearrested. God damn it. Ian, meanwhile, goes out to try to rescue them, is basically turned on by a traitor in the organization who's killed by the other guy,
Mm-hmm.
And he's brought back, and they all meet up, and they're all happy, but they still don't have the doctor, which is a problem. Meanwhile, the doctor has, in his way of nosing around the prison as this guard, attracts attention, and eventually is gone to see basically the current head of the revolution. What is it? Robespierre? Robespierre, thank you, Robespierre. Who basically gets in a bit of a talky match with the doctor over morality, and basically wants him to come back, which is a problem because the doctor really doesn't want to be there. He wants to find his friends. Unfortunately, the person that he bought the robes from turns the doctor in, and it turns into basically a giant mess, where eventually it reveals that the guy that was really interested in Ian is actually in disguise Sterling. Eventually, they all meet up. He says, yes, I'm planning on going back to England soon, but there's one more thing I need to accomplish first. Ian gives him the information he got from the guy in the cell, and there's a secret meeting going on, which they basically replace the members of the bar it's happening in, listen up, and realizes that the guy is meeting with Napoleon Bonaparte. Hey. And they're planning on getting rid of Robespierre. They try to stop it, but of course they can't because time must go as time goes. Sterling gets Susan out of prison, and they lead everybody towards Calais, which is fortunately the same direction the doctor and them go off, and they escape and go back to the TARDIS. End of episode. Ugh.
All right, that was about 6 minutes, 44 seconds.
Yeah, I wasn't really prepared to do one. But, the people that are supposed to be doing
It's also a very convoluted story from what I remember.
Yes, it is. It is, but it's a very convoluted time. All right, so let's talk about what we like about this episode.
Okay. I guess I'm going first.
Correct.
Because I remember. All right. I really liked the convolution, to be frank. Just the intrigue of the story and the mystery of now I've forgotten the name and I just remembered it.
Sterling.
Sterling is like.
I can remember it now because I immediately just think Archer and got it.
The moment when Sterling revealed himself, and also the cleverness of the Doctor in manipulating his way into France, and all the secret meetings, intrigues, it was just an enticing storyline throughout that kept me glued to my seat. I had to check myself to sure. Okay.
You might want to check your seat to make sure you're not fastened there still.
Yeah.
Normally a telesnap episode doesn't keep my attention because I find them to be boring as fuck because there's a lot of visual cues. This one kept the action going to the point that I didn't mind it that much. Matt, how about you? What did you like about the episode?
What I liked overall about the episode, I do remember I quite enjoyed the entry for the beginning of the story, how they get how it feels a little more legit, how they get dragged into things. Also, I love the little tidbit of the companions not believing the Doctor because it's just like, oh, you did that number on us before. And immediately, as soon as he's proven wrong, that just the looks of, huh?
Yep.
Of course, Doctor. Just a little ways away and a couple centuries off. Of course, Doctor.
All right.
Yeah, so some of that's earlier stuff in particular in the episode I really liked.
All right. So what I really liked was they managed to get, I think, to an extent, the what the environment must have been like for 18th century France. You know, the feeling of um,
Paranoia.
paranoia and just the squalor that France was in at the time too.
Mm-hmm.
People walking down the roads coughing because and just the fact that you knew that if you did something wrong, you were probably going to be next on the guillotine.
It wasn't necessarily the guillotine either, because the I think at this point the revolution had been going on for quite a while. It was just nasty and brutal in all directions.
It was, but there were two major killers in revolutionary France: the guillotine and the prisons, because people.
I
That
think
was the
I think at least the beginning the prisons were, but then I believe during the middle of the revolution is when the guillotine was made, and they made liberal use of it.
Yeah, but the prisons are still the major killers. They're
Yeah, but
not.
the prisons still took the most of it. Yeah, they mostly used the guillotine in the later half because it helped free up the prisons more.
So just to let you know, a total of 2,639 people were guillotined in Paris
Mm-hmm.
in the 9-month period that is the Reign of Terror. In that same period of time, up to around 50,000 were shot or died of illness in the prisons.
Yep.
Those prisoners were quite unsanitary.
Yes. And that's, I think, one of the things I love the fact that they had Susan come down with illness due
Because
to the prison.
it is quite possibly something that would have happened then, yeah.
Yeah, that's a little too advanced because, they would have had to spend a great deal of time in the prisons to get infected like that. But still, they were not sanitary locations.
Mm-mm. And if she accidentally it is still possible that if she ended up in the wrong place at the wrong time, she could have gotten something real nasty fast. Especially if her immune system wasn't ready for it. Which arguably some people at the time could be a little more immune to it than others.
So, yeah, the entire revolution itself took 250,000 lives.
Mm-hmm. It was a
Yeah.
nasty revolution. It went on for like 4 or 5 years, I think, at least.
Somewhat. I mean, because, you had the initial revolution.
Mm-hmm. And then that
Which
led
was
into another one, which led into technically another one, I think.
Well, okay. So then you had, so first of all, you had the original revolution overthrowing the monarchy.
Yep. Because they were sick of that.
The Jacobins.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had Brissot's Girondin faction overthrow the Jacobins. And then you had Bonaparte basically hold a coup on the Girondins and turn it into an empire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, technically, Bonaparte's entry is technically the end of the constant backstabbing, but even then, he was not exactly the greatest guy. He did. I think he did a lot of nasty stuff in order to finally calm things down too, as I recall. But I can't recall all of them off the top of my head, though. I do remember that apparently before his coup, he was known as a military guy that was actually catching a lot of people's attention, but a lot of the government higher ups didn't like him, so he kind of went into hiding for a while. And then he planned the coup, and that's how he got back in again.
Yeah.
And that's making it very basic, by the way. Don't call me a historian.
Yeah, there's a lot of things, a lot of little details that I'd never think actually made it out.
Mm-hmm.
Whether, and they just weren't recorded in history because this is a period of pure fucking chaos.
Yeah, well, probably half the stuff that was written down that would have been true might have ended up getting burned by accident anyways somewhere along the way, so that, or trampled and tossed into the mud, or God knows what other things would have happened to
And
the
you've got to
things that needed
remember,
to get crossed. So
history is written by the victors.
that is partially true as well. So the louder voices probably got heard more.
So by the time the chaos died down to the point that, history could be recorded, Napoleon was in charge and was able to dictate what was being written.
And he's the nicest, bestest guy ever.
Until Europe basically said, no, bad dictator. Go and live on your island.
Yeah.
To which he said, I have no taters. Fight me over it.
And then he managed to come back and try it again. And they said, no, go back to your island.
But yeah, did you have a particular thing you liked about this episode, or did we already cover that?
That was what I just said. I like the ambiance.
The ambiance. Okay, yeah, that's right.
Okay, let's talk about what we disliked.
Disliked Tim.
Okay, they actually pretty much set it out, the fact that for all this intrigue, ultimately it means nothing because the Doctor and company cannot change anything. So it's like I'm left with a. So the point of all this was just a sightseeing tour of a terrible his epic.
The entire point of the plot was that's a giant foam peanut. Yes.
Yeah, pretty much. That's pretty much what you learn is that, yeah, you just basically had a horrible tour of history. And, I sat here wondering about that because if they hadn't gotten that message to Sterling, what would have happened?
Nothing?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's about the only thing that might have actually had a change. So, I'm a little wondering about that. All right, Matt, how about you?
I have to say the most disappointing part of it for me, from what I can recall, was the middle portion of it because it's so, first of all, so easily forgettable. Second of all, it feels like a lot of rinse and repeat of people running around in circles trying to get one another to group together, and something always pulls them apart again.
Mm-hmm.
There's always some excuse, some backstabber, some sort of random happenstance that suddenly they can't meet together like they were supposed to, or this, that, and the next thing. And that on top of it, I think also well, I'm going to leave that for someone else if they want to bring that up. But yeah, just speaking of foam peanuts, the biggest foam peanut of the episode is literally just the in between the beginning and end of the story. I remember the beginning and the end the most, and then it's just the middle is just like a giant. Can't even devote it to memory. Things happened, and then they came on the end, and there was Napoleon.
Let's see. What about me? What did I think? What did I dislike overall? I think it has to do with Susan being whiny. She actually got annoying in this episode.
That was one of the things I was trying to hold back on, is that Susan, I think there's other things to be mentioned about other characters, but Susan did have her issues in this one. This was her bad companion episode.
Yeah, because first they're in prison and she's bawling out, and then she freaks out because there's a rat, and then she's freaking getting sick, and it's like.
I don't even think it's that it's an issue of her as an actress. I think they really just didn't know how to write for her for this one for some reason.
Yeah, I thought she had developed a little more than that, and now she's back to basically being needy, cryy.
Yeah, it's just a really badly written episode for her.
All right, so we're at favorite scenes.
Oh boy. my favorite scene was where the Doctor is walking to France and he gets impounded into working for that road gang because he doesn't know when to keep his mouth shut.
Yeah, that was definitely a Doctor, what the fuck were you thinking moment. Maybe if you helped them, out, it'd get done faster. Yeah.
Oh, look how smart you are.
All right, Matt, how about you?
I have to say one of the few things I do always remember is the big reveal at, I think it was the end of episode 3, I want to say, or something like that. This is a 6-parter?
Yes.
So actually, it's probably the end of episode 4 or 5 as the sudden reveal of Napoleon. And because the way I grew up, I don't know about the rest of you, but the way I grew up, I always knew the caricature, but I never actually knew the physical representation properly.
Napoleon doesn't show up until episode 6.
So not until episode 6. I thought
No, the ending of episode 5 is, Doctor, you've betrayed us. You've brought the French to us. Which ends in early episode 6 as, no, I'm actually Sterling.
Dun, dun, dun.
I could have sworn Napoleon's reveal was one of the ends of the episodes.
Nope.
I'm pretty sure it was, but
no,
okay.
They're in the bar and they're just talking, and then they
I don't know. Maybe that's just a bit early. I'm remembering because again, I have to remind you, it's been a while. It's kind of vague, but I just remember the sudden Napoleon reveal and just going, "Wait, that's Napoleon?"
They're in the bar and they see the guy. Like, no, I didn't see his face, and then he pokes his head out. I was like, "That's Napoleon Bonaparte!" And yeah, that was in the 10 minutes into episode 6.
So it was almost a cliffhanger. Just said it was the starter of episode 6. Okay. But yeah, I just remember the way I've been raised. I only kind of knew the caricature, but I never really saw the actual guy and seen that big muscly chin guy, and being a relatively tall and well buffed out guy. It's just like, oh, so that's what he was closer to looking like. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, I actually thought they did a good job with how he looked, because I've seen.
Yeah, and I've seen some stuff since then, and it's like, yeah, that's actually not too far off. They did a pretty good job of him, and seeing the more realistic version of him for a change was just like, oh, okay, I can see where you might get some, at least some military soldier ideas out of this guy, sure.
And the entire thing about Napoleon being short was just propaganda by the.
Well, that was propaganda and them making fun of him and his temperament, yeah.
It's yeah, it's mostly it's just propaganda. So the fact that the guy was of average height, yeah, probably was.
Probably was. It looks like he might be even slightly above average height, but it's yeah. I just never really knew the whole soldier history either before that point either too. So I just knew he was some sort of dictator guy from France.
I knew a little more, but mind you, this was the first time I'd seen this episode. But I'd also played Assassin's Creed Unity. And you deal with Napoleon in there, and I knew a little bit from other sources that I'd seen Napoleon in as well. So
I've seen, like I said, since I saw this, and I saw this. Oh gosh, I'm trying to remember now. It's been at least 10 years.
Yeah, the only thing you'd see Napoleon in is him escaping to Waterloo in Bill and Ted.
I can't even say I've seen that.
Really?
Yeah, that's how little of Bill and Ted I've seen.
Jesus.
I've mostly seen the most I've seen is parts and bits of the second movie.
Oh God, bogus.
But
journey.
no, I've seen him from other things, and matter of fact, I want to say there's like a month or two ago I saw a history of the revolution that led up to all this, which is also another way I've seen how Napoleon kind of looked like. It's still slightly a caricature, but it was more of an accurate caricature, and it's like, oh, okay, so yeah, they weren't too far off. But yeah, that just seeing him for the first time, not a caricature, is like, oh, Has a moment of step back and realize what this guy was kind of more about. So they at least got him right for this episode too, as a guest appearance. So to you, I guess, Randy, if you haven't already said something for yours yet.
All right, so I think my favorite scene is the doctor bullshitting his way through the prison. Because he just immediately takes charge, takes no shit, and is just like, has that poor prison head just over a barrel.
So the first doctor being the irascible doctor for all the good reasons.
Yes.
Which also
I'm
means
just
that
like,
William Hartnell must have been just gleeful to be playing a military type and not having to pull his punches a little bit.
yeah, he's like, I know exactly what I'm doing here. All right, so what did you dislike, Tim?
Okay, dislike. I really didn't care for the scene where Susan and Barbara are on their way to the guillotine, and Barbara says, "Let's run for it," and Susan says, "No, I'm not. I don't feel so good." That
No,
was just,
I'm not really feeling it. I'm just going to stay here and get my head cut off.
yeah. I mean, surely Susan knew about the guillotine and its purpose.
Considering the
Didn't she?
fact that in An Unearthly Child, she pointed out flaws in a book on the French Revolution.
She should have, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this is not her first rodeo in revolutionary France.
This is maybe the closest she's been to it, but it's not her first rodeo.
No, it was assumed that they had been in the French Revolution before. So somewhere there's another doctor.
There's technically somewhere else, but not like in the middle of it, France.
Yeah. But yeah, it's...
Yeah, this is just not her episode.
Yeah, it's not. Okay, Matt, how about you?
I'm trying to remember any particular parts that I didn't like, and again, I have to try and scratch this off of like really old memory at this point. I can remember some of the good stuff. I just remember the middle just being just completely boring. Maybe it was like, you know what it was? It's probably one of the backstabbing guys, the one that tried to get Ian recaptured, I think. In particular, it's just like, oh really, this again? Oh, for L's sake, can we just kill this guy? Boom! Oh, thank you.
All right. So what about me? Is the scene where the doctor escapes from the chain gang he's on? I liked it at first, but then he has to go and hit the guy in the head with a shovel.
Revenge.
And it's like, that's kind of not really a doctory thing to do. I mean, yes, it is still the first season, and he is a bit of a bastard, but he was the same person that at least 3 episodes ago said, no, I abhor violence, so...
Well, it's still better than what he tried to do on his second story, which is club a caveman to death with a rock.
Yeah, I know, but it's on that same league to me. At least he was only unconscious, because you could hear him snoring at the end of the scene, but I'm like, that's not right.
I'm pretty sure the doctor knew he was only going to knock the guy out. Yeah, at worst.
All right, that's our likes and dislikes. Wow.
Oh.
We shot through that like a rocket.
Oh.
That takes us to final thoughts. Short episode today.
Yeah.
That's what happens when there's not a lot of news. Not a lot of secondary. All right.
Not a lot of.
So, Tim, your final thoughts on the episode.
My final thoughts. It was an exciting story, but ultimately not very pertinent to the Doctor and history. But as you said, it was a peanut, but it was an okay peanut, and despite the telesnap episodes, the the action in said episodes was enough that it didn't detract too much. He said, I would have liked to have seen Susan have more of a stronger role in this episode than what they gave her, but what can you do? That's pretty much all I have to say.
All right.
Oh, wait, I did have a question. Had
Mhm.
they established the Doctor's binary heart system yet?
No,
I don't think so.
they don't do that. They don't do that until either the third or fourth Doctor.
Because I was imagining when they had the old-timed physician check Susan is like, extraordinary.
No, because I believe he's the Doctor's in the hospital in his third incarnation, and they don't mention the binary heart system, but it comes up somewhere either later in the third Doctor or in the fourth Doctor for the first time.
Actually, I know they called up something was weird about the third Doctor, but I can't remember what it was in his first episode.
Either way, it's definitely not established by this point.
Yeah, not at this point.
Because at this point, they hadn't decided whether or not they were actually just humans from the future. They hadn't really decided that they were aliens. They didn't make that decision until 10th Planet.
Mm-hmm.
They just tried to keep that as much of a mystery as possible.
It's been little layers like an onion.
All right. Because after all, I mean, Susan winds up going off with David in the invasion of Earth and trying to start a family there, and, alien species. That shouldn't have been possible.
Yeah, that's a head scratcher still.
Yep. Anywho, Matt, your final thoughts.
My final thoughts. I just remember this being a slug of a foam peanut, in particular in the middle. I remember the events of the beginning and the end somewhat better, and they were a little more interesting. They kept my attention. But I just remember the in between just felt like it was just constantly circular motion, wasting your time for like 3 or 4 episodes, and then we finally get out of it.
Mm. Is that all you have to say?
That's pretty much all my memories of it, and the little things that I've been able to come up with are the few details I can remember.
All right. So I actually enjoyed this. The first, few episodes held my attention well. Even the telesnaps I was able to mostly listen to and just click when it was silent to see what was going on. And I enjoyed it. Only detractors was Susan's behavior. And mostly Susan's behavior. Other than that, I thought this was a decent episode. It loses a little bit for missing, a couple of the episodes, but not as bad as like last week where where everything was missing. So
Mm-hmm.
all in all, I'd still say above average. Speaking of which, let's go to the ratings. Tim, you are first.
Ratings. Well, all in all, I'm going to give this episode 3.5 stars.
3.5. Matt.
I'm gonna be lower, but I'm not gonna be extremely low apparently, so I'm giving it a 3.
3. Now I'm going to be the high B here and give it a 4.
Which means Tim's the right one this time.
I'm with 3.5. 3.5. We'll put it in our ranking systems. At 212 out of 307 things reviewed. It is on par with episodes such as the Saranga Conundrum, Planet of the Dead, The Eaters of Light, The Savages, 42, City of Death,
Just a lot of things there.
Christmas Invasion, Twice Upon a Time, Mark of the Rani, Fury from the Deep, Town Called Mercy. It is better than The Long Game, The Android Invasion, Five Doctors, The Myth Makers, The Androids of Terra, etc., and is not as good as The Doctor, the Widow, The Wardrobe, The Woman Who Lived, Tomb of the Cybermen, Full Circle, Resurrection of the Daleks. There we go. Seems like we just started, but now we're ending. 212 out of 307. That's all we have to say about the Reign of Terror.
Oh, we're not doing too bad, though. Hour and a half.
The Doctor Who story, The Reign of Terror. I'm sure we could all go on and on and on about the actual Reign of Terror.
Yes, but this isn't a history podcast. It's a Doctor Who podcast.
Yep.
Yep.
So speaking of which, so if you enjoyed our show, don't forget to catch us on YouTube at Unearthly Podcast. You can also find us live here on Twitch on our Unearthly Podcast for our live streams of these episodes. You can also find us on our social medias at Twitter at Unearthly Pod and Facebook at Unearthly Podcast. And if you do enjoy our shows and want to let us know it with a little bit of monetary value, you can also check out our Patreon at An Unearthly Podcast and spend your shekels there.
All right. So, with the lost episodes of Season 1 done, we move on to the lost episodes of Season 2. We go to the Middle Ages in the Middle East in The Crusade. Written by David Whitaker and starring William Hartnell as the Doctor, Jacqueline Hill as Barbara, William Russell as Ian, and Maureen O'Brien as Vicky. So we will see you next week.
Next week. Bye-bye.
And hopefully we can kick Bill's ass to get here.
Yep.
We might have to get a suit of armor over there to start kicking him like a football.
Otherwise, that's it. I'm the host now.
I am the god. I am the god of hellfire.
We'll have our own coup.
With blackjack and hookers.
Wait, we can't afford those.
Shit!